Welcome to InterPartyConflict, the podcast where we answer your questions so you can have the best tabletop gaming experience possible. My name is Gabe.
And my name is Jeff.
And we have a wonderful guest with us today, the myth, the man, the legend. You've heard him mentioned many, many times.
Yeah.
Chris.
Woo!
Hello, everyone. It's great to be here.
And we're going to answer your questions today. But first, Chris, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, pretty good.
Awesome.
I just got to hang out for most of the day with a good friend of mine, yourself.
Awesome.
And
same.
Jeff, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm sorry. I did you forget I was here?
Who said? Oh, hey, Jeff. Sorry, I forgot you were there.
I'm doing fine. My folks are in town right now, so
Gotcha.
They like to treat Skylar and I to like going out to eat and stuff all the time. So I'm eating a little too well right now. So,
Yeah.
There's no such thing as eating too well.
that's true.
So yeah, Chris, we hadn't really seen each other in a couple of years.
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
you were in my 5th edition game that I was running, way back, and then
that was like 2 apartments ago for you.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't even think I saw the second one they were in.
Yeah, no, we were only at that other apartment for like 6 months, and then we got our house. So, but yeah, I've just been busy with work and everything, and so it's it's hard to make time to see everybody. But it was good to see you today.
Yeah.
I'm glad we could have you on the podcast. I know we talk about you a lot.
Thank you.
I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that most of what I know as a DM, as a player of this game, I learned from you.
Oh, thanks. I did my best. I mean, you were, when I first saw you, I was like, this kid has potential, because you were like, you were wide-eyed, you were happy, and you actually wanted to play.
Mm-hmm.
You just, for the life of you, couldn't figure out how.
Oh, goodness, no.
And I was like, all right, I've been playing this game for a long time, and more importantly, I've made a lot of mistakes. So here's what you need to know to avoid those mistakes.
Here's a list of most common mistakes made.
Yeah, and I mean, to be honest, that's kind of what my approach was with this podcast. Is like, I've played a lot of good games, I've played a lot of bad games, and I can probably help tell people what not to do.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because there are a lot of pitfalls that you fall into with this game that you don't really notice you falling into them until like you look at somebody else playing. You're like, my God, they're brilliant. I'm rubbish. Could somebody please shoot me now?
Yeah.
And then if you're brave enough, you walk up to that person. You're like, my kung fu is no good. Master, will you teach me? And it works well. I mean,
And then he'll make you like sweep the sidewalk and paint the garage.
play as NPCs.
What's that?
That's the worst part. Playing the NPCs, playing the crappy NPCs. Like, play the shopkeeper. Like, no, not the shopkeeper. Can I be a knight? No, you will play a shopkeeper and you will like it until you get good at it.
What's what's like a thing you would do to like get better at rolling something? Like they make you go bowling. Like you go bowling so that and then they put dice in your hand and you roll it really well.
Yep.
But you have to have a training montage
Right,
on her and the whole thing.
It's like, what does bowling have to do with Dungeons and Dragons? You will see. And then he rolls the dice for the first time and he understands like, I could, oh my God, this whole time.
You can do it.
Yeah.
Roll 20s every time.
Oh man, if only.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Like custom bowling ball with like a D20 on the inside.
That would be
cool.
awesome.
It's like mostly clear except for a D20 on the inside.
Like the skull bowling ball
Yes.
in Mystery Man, except a D20. Man,
Yes.
That would be so cool.
Someone needs to make this.
What was her
Yeah.
character's name?
The bowler.
She was just called the bowler.
the
Yep,
bowler.
the bowler.
Yeah, okay.
Her dad, who was another bowler, he fell down an elevator shaft onto some bullets.
Oh goodness.
Anyway, yeah. So we've got Chris here. We're gonna answer some questions. Hopefully, have some good discussion and go from there. So, Chris, one day you are at the local bowling alley, and you know that it's league night, and you've got your friend Jeff here, and some other unnamed NPCs are also on your league with you, and you've been doing pretty good. You're on fire, you might say. But then you look over at the next lane over, and you see it's your nemesis. And it's this guy you grew up with. He's about 30 feet tall, red scales. He wears a leather jacket over his scaly wings.
Charlie Myers.
It is Charlie Myers, the red dragon from the wrong side of the tracks. The wrong side of the fiery tracks.
Oh, wow.
And you know he's going for that trophy too. That hoard of trophies. And so I want you to roll a dexterity check. Go ahead and roll that right there. 6.
That was horrible.
You have advantage. You have advantage because everybody's cheering for you. Nobody wants Charlie Myers to win.
Yeah.
And nobody ever wants that guy to win. I have a feeling this is probably worse.
That is a 4. Okay.
Yeah.
So you didn't do so well.
Jeff can roll. Save us, Jeff. You're our only hope.
Okay. Jeff, you have to beat Charlie Myers. It's all down to you. All the other NPCs on your team, they did just a good enough job to get you so that it all comes down to you.
Okay, all right, let's see.
Go, Jeff. You have advantage as well.
I don't think I'll need it.
Oh.
I rolled an 18 and then a 19.
Okay. So it is the final frame. You've gotten 2 strikes. You've got that third strike ready to go.
Turkey?
You're trying to get a turkey.
Going for the turkey.
Charlie Myers tries to sabotage you. Someone smeared Vaseline all over your bowling ball.
Oh.
But at the last minute, Chris shows up with his lucky ball. He hands it to you. It's not the right size, but what the heck? You got luck on your side. You roll that ball. You hit the 7-10 split. Somehow there's a 7-10 split on the third frame or the third one.
Be a strike.
There would have been 10 somehow. It is a 7-10 split.
It's 2 sets of I knock down one whole set of pins and it also knocks down the pins on the other lane.
Exactly. So somehow or another you hit this 7-10 split. Everybody cheers. They lift you up on their shoulders, and then you have won the trophies.
The bowling trophies.
The bowling trophies in this dragon's hoard.
There's like a free hot dog at the bar. That was the prize.
That's the prize. Yes, you won a free hot dog. And Charlie Myers, he really wanted that.
He really wanted that hot dog.
He probably did. He was. Oh God, that's the actual name of the worst DM I've ever had in my life.
Okay. All right. Well, Charlie Myers, if you're out there, Chris is coming for you. So our item today was actually submitted by Chris. I'll be reading it today. The item is Sun Wukong's Sash. For anybody who doesn't know, Sun Wukong was a character from Japanese folklore. If you're familiar with Dragon Ball, character of Goku was, kind of loosely based on Sun Wukong, maybe not so loosely.
And the journey west is really great if you want to. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. This is a green silk sash sporting an embroidered scene of a forest along its bottom edge composed of gold thread. This item requires attunement. The sash, when worn by an attuned being, allows them to use the sash for any action that only uses one hand at any distance up to 15 feet away, including such things as wielding a weapon or picking a lock. For purposes of this effect, the user is considered to be using their own limb and occupying a space anywhere along the sash for purposes of perception. So you can pick a lock or wield a weapon exactly as if you were wielding it.
Yeah, and also it uses your own perception. So if you have a candle and you're in a dark hall or whatever, and you're trying to pick that lock that's 15 feet away, well, you're still going to take penalties for darkness because the part of you that could actually see the lock.
Sure,
if you're gonna, judge your perception from being that close. That's in darkness.
Yeah. That's kind of an interesting level of granularity for how it functions, and I like that because it's not all hand wavy. It's like you thought of it enough to know, an interesting way for it to work.
Yeah, but you can do really cool stuff with it. Like, my favorite thing I thought of when I first created it is actually using it to spy on people. Ooh. Like putting part of it through a door if it's lit, because most humanoid creatures don't have dark vision.
Right.
So they'll be using some kind of lighting source, so you'll probably be able to see them, hear them, whatever. And you'll be able to do it without the intervention of the door,
Oh,
which will
okay.
take those penalties away.
Gotcha. When it said for purposes of perception, I thought it meant for purposes of people seeing you, but so you can see from any point. Oh, but then you were talking about the candle because the candle is back at the beginning.
Yep.
Gotcha. That's really cool. Yeah.
Thank you. You know, and doing stuff like if you're trying to evade your adversaries and you're underwater, you can make part of the sash go up and look around like a periscope.
That's really cool because there's the you know, going with like Japanese themes and such. There's like the idea of ninjas that would like hide underwater with a little bamboo tube that they could breathe from, and then
You know, I mean, it's a really great magical item. If I do say so myself, I'm sorry.
no, it's a really cool item.
That is great for a good number of uses that aren't really covered by more mechanically robust items.
Sure.
Which a lot of those I don't even really like. The best items are the ones that make you think a little bit.
Yeah.
And those are usually the most fun because those are the ones we like read about as kids and like, oh, that's kind of cool. Because like when I was a kid, everybody, you know, read the Tales of King Arthur.
Sure.
And Excalibur's sash was my favorite, hands down.
Okay.
It prevented the wielder, the wearer from bleeding. That's a cool power.
Yeah.
I always just imagined all the blood running into the mouth of the scabbard.
Yeah.
And when the blood was finished running, that whatever area that the blood was coming from was healed.
Yeah.
That was a very strange child.
It's all right.
So yeah, magic items that aren't like, I am the plus 30 sword of whoop ass.
It's my +1 mace.
Yeah. I mean, after +1, they're dull.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just
+1 is enough. Everything else is just gratuitous.
Yeah, it's cool because +1. Now it's a magical weapon. It does it like has magical properties.
Yeah.
Oh, but now it's more magical.
It's even more magical.
Yeah. I mean,
It's very magical.
Yeah.
Think of some cooler way to express its magic, because even swords that in fiction that have some kind of magic that helps them hit usually do so in a really cool and unique way. That, like, I'd be able to deal with, like, say, a sword called Nightblade that gave you a +3 to hit and a +3 to your armor class because it would partially slow up or speed up time to your advantage depending on what you were doing.
Well, now hold on a minute. You're getting into other potential Dragon's Horde items here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. Yeah. So with this item, I really like the idea of being able to interact with things by just sort of throwing the sash. There is, in earlier editions, the Arcane Trickster, and now I think the Arcane Trickster is a rogue archetype, correct?
Yeah.
And they have the iconic ability of being able to use Mage Hand to pick a lock or to pick a pocket or something like that. And you can do that with this, and I think that's really cool. Now, it's not exactly the same because this can be seen. Someone can see you throwing a sash, whereas the Mage Hand would be presumably invisible. But I just think that's such a cool idea to be able to, like, I can grab something out of that guy's pocket from across the room just by carefully, whipping the sash over there.
Like I said, I've been revisiting a lot of old books, and Journey to the West is one of my favorites.
Yeah. It's a very, very influential piece of fiction.
And it was during one of the sections where I was making a couple of magic items. Because, if you look carefully and look very, very carefully for where the serial numbers have been filed off, you'll see Castle Grayskull, Captain America's shield.
I think everybody has tried to make Captain America's shield at some point or another in D&D.
You're right. Trying to get the stats for it or something.
Yeah. But see, I think most people's biggest problems with making magical items, honestly, when they try to emulate others from different genres, they try to emulate it power for power, which I think is wrong. you emulate the feel and the general theme of it,
Sure.
but recreate it for the world that you're working with.
Yeah.
Like,
you want it to
you
be
know.
scaled for
Oh
you
yeah,
know, whatever setting you're in.
yeah. Because I mean, some people just come out and like I know you've seen them, the old katana debates.
Yeah, about like how powerful a katana would be and so
Right.
on.
Yeah, have you seen them, Jeff?
Yeah, I know of them. Yeah.
Oh,
It's
God.
the
They-
katana
they-
debates of how a
Well,
katana.
I mean, clearly a katana does 3d20 damage with
Yeah.
a 15 to 20 times 4 critical,
Of
correct?
course, right? Duh.
And it
Yeah.
ignores hardness of below 30.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And
And it's not just a long sword, but curved.
No, of course not.
It's not.
They folded the metal, Jeff.
Gosh.
They folded crappy metal.
Yes, they folded the metal because they had to.
Right, yeah.
Because the iron was such poor quality.
They had to fold it to make it worth turning into a sword.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you could do that with, actual real metal. Not to offend any, weebos out there. I'm sorry, not really. But, yeah, seriously, you could do a real metal and it actually have an effect to make the sword marginally stronger. Not sharper.
Right.
Marginally stronger, much harder to make.
Right. Sorry, one more detail about Sun Wukong's staff. You had some flavor text here that I didn't get to at the end. The sash is the property of the Monkey King and has a limited sentence leading it to wander when Sun Wukong is taking one of his famous naps. This usually lands it in the hands, waist of a hero, preferably a famous one. However, Sun Wukong is a very selfish creature and will seek out his errant sash when he awakens.
Oh, well, that's just because, I like to put a little bit of a screw you in all of my magical items.
Absolutely.
Not so much to actually screw the player, but because
to lead to some possible storytelling that could arise.
something that could be cool, something that could be fun, even if the player, say none of the players want that sash, right? And they end up doing what players do, they sell it.
Sure.
Well, maybe the guy who they sold it to is like, hey, I keep getting attacked by this guy. What the heck did y'all sell me?
Right.
Yeah.
And
This
that
monkey coming after me.
yeah,
It's like,
and that could lead to, something.
He has this staff. He grabbed me, the staff extended, and he put me on the moon so I could make marshmallow sandwiches. What the heck did you do?
Exactly. And that
I write this letter from the moon.
With regards.
With regards.
That was a Dragon Ball reference, everybody.
and that actually, that can actually lead to something. I have no stats for Sun Wukong. I have no stats for the Monkey King.
Sure.
And I don't think anybody should until they need to use the Monkey King.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, Legends, oh my god, that's in no game that I ever play. Do I ever, even if I create the world, do I ever stat up Legends until it's time for me to use them? Because
Sure.
Legends should be whatever the hell I need
At that moment.
at that moment.
Yeah.
Because they're legendary. They're going to have whatever doodly doos they need to do whatever job they're about to do. I mean, that's like when you're writing Batman, you don't
write out what gadgets he has.
exactly. He just has them, even if it's shark repellent.
Yeah.
Even if it's bat shark repellent.
He's, it's Batman. He's a detective. He knows like all the different contingencies he'll need.
And he knew those sharks could climb ladders.
Well, he is from there's a little bit of world building there.
Yeah.
He lives in a world where sharks climb ladders.
Yeah.
One of the many masters he trained under told him a story. No, wait. No,
Batman?
the master was a ladder climbing shark.
Oh, there you go. I was gonna say
He
Batman?
knows shark style.
Batman is clearly a prequel to Sharknado.
Sharknado is an awesome series. It's just so bad. It's great, and they knew it was going to be so bad. It was great. They put the exact amount of oh god, this is horrible to make it awesome.
All right. Well, I think that'll do it for the Dragon's Horde today. Thank you very much, Chris, for that item. I think that's a really cool one.
Well,
I would
you're
love to
very
use that in my games. So, Jeff, if anybody wanted to submit magic items to us, or questions for us to discuss, or stories for the funeral pyre, how would they do so?
They can send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com.
All right. And then before we get on to questions, I just want to direct everybody to the other podcasts in the Crit Nation Fellowship. Go and check out Crit Academy at critacademy.com. It's a great podcast. They just celebrated 1 year at the time of this episode going out. I guess that was about a week or two ago.
Yeah,
they've been doing it for a year. I hope they get several more years out of it. And then the other podcast on there is the D&D Character Lab. It's a very fun podcast where they make characters and then kind of pit them against each other in a battle of wits. Have you checked out that podcast, Chris?
No, I have not.
It's a lot of fun.
It's
You
pretty good,
should check it out.
They make turtle characters.
They do have an episode where they made turtle
I think
characters.
that's episode 8, level 8.
Something like that, yeah. All right. So yeah, you guys want to get into some questions?
Sure.
Cool.
All right, our first question comes from Mostly Joe on email, and they ask, what is your take on narrative-focused games versus genre simulation games versus hybrid models?
Yes. And when he submitted this question, he actually gave some examples. Narrative-focused games, he gave the examples of Fate or Cortex. Genre simulation would be games like D&D, 5th edition, like RuneQuest, Eclipse Phase were other games he mentioned. And the hybrid models, he said, like 13th Age and Dungeon World.
Sure.
We've had this, I've mentioned this for a few of the questions we've gone over recently, but we've had this question for a long time. Jeff and I don't really have a good answer for this because neither of us have played most of these games. However, Chris has played some of them, or has played some games of these types. So.
Yeah, I'm like the nerd king. I've played most games. I am so dorky, it's sad.
No, that's fine.
But
that's fine.
I like hybrids best if we're going to talk about desire, because everybody is contributing 100%. And that adds to a larger base of contribution to the entire game and stuff that people are interested in happening.
Sure. I guess let me just take a quick moment and kind of for anybody who doesn't know what a narrative-focused game is. A narrative-focused game would be a game where it is less about the mechanics, or rather, it's more about the players narrating what happens. For example, before we started recording, Chris gave an example of if the players are going through a forest or something, and then the DM saying to them, okay, you're going through the forest, what do you find in the forest? And then the players then are able to narrate what happens. Or maybe the players maybe there's some sort of mechanic where the players can introduce a plot twist. So the players are in control of the narrative to some degree, at least, in addition to the DM or game master. And then, so the genre simulation, again, like I said, is something like Dungeons and Dragons, where it is more about creating a genre. You know, the dungeon master creates a story and so on. And then a hybrid would be some sort of a game that combines the two.
And with genre games, they're great. They're great for keeping you very, very focused. But the problem is that focus can become your albatross. You can become way too narrowly focused to the point that nothing can really be accomplished because you can only do it one or two ways. And generally, sadly, because of how the mechanics of D&D and how the mechanics of most games work, it becomes a very pass-fail experience. So it's like we can do it this one way or we can fail, guys. That's how it works. And that kind of sucks.
It's just no matter how creative I get with how I want to deal with this problem, if I roll poorly, it's no good.
Yeah. I actually hate that. So because me and Gabe were actually talking about this earlier. In most of my games that I run, even in D&D, you can roll badly, you can fail, and you probably won't notice because you'll probably succeed if you're fairly good. If you're the thief character and you roll like a 1, you pick the lock's butt.
Sure.
Yeah,
that's a good idea. Like if their skill is at least high enough, like maybe like a fail state isn't them. They don't pick the lock, so you don't do the cool thing that your character trained years and years to do. You still do it, but like you broke your lucky pick or something, or
Yeah. Or you were really goddamn loud this time and you alerted the guards down the hall. Or even worse than breaking the lockpick, the lockpick is stuck there.
Yeah.
And you can't retrieve it. And it's in a door, but that's your favorite lockpick.
Yeah.
So I know eventually I get to bring you right back here
Sure.
for something else nasty that I want to do to you. So
you come back and the pick is gone, and now you got to go on an adventure to get the pick back.
Exactly, and that is, and I think that is one of the best things you can do as a DM. I know I'm off topic now.
Go for it.
But to say and to allow players to fail forward is the best thing in the world.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, your sneak. Yeah. Oh, you're the party ninja, but you rolled a 2. Okay, it's an entire war party of orcs. I can either wake them all up and kill this character, or I can make him make a noise that sounded a lot like a female orc in the mood. And see how this plays out.
Yeah.
With one extremely drunken orc. And I mean, it's weird, the things that'll just, come to you like, oh, this was a bad roll. And it takes a lot of pressure off of you because bad rolls don't scare you anymore.
Right.
That was it was never about failing forward. It was never about my players when I first implemented doing that. It was all about me being terrified that they're going to fail and it's going to be all my fault because either I made the adventure too hard or I asked for a roll at the wrong point in time. I know I did something wrong. And that was just to alleviate my fear, because I never wanted to tell somebody you failed if it's something they're good at. Now, if it's the wizard picking a lock, no, you just failed, dude.
Yeah.
You're bad at it. Stop it. Cast a spell, guy. But
the knock spell.
if it's the like in stories, when the master trapsmith fails to spring a trap, it's plot based.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And it's a lot more fun that way. You're like, oh, he failed that. Oh my God, it's about to get thick. And you get really into it because you're like, oh, this is going to be good.
I just had a thought. Could you guys imagine reading a book where the players where the characters just failed at things sometimes and then they just did it again and succeeded? And the book was just like 20% longer because every time one of the characters wanted to do something, they had to try it a few times.
Right, yeah. Like,
and nothing interesting happened as a result of their failure.
Yeah, I could imagine reading that book for maybe 20 minutes.
Yes.
And that's another reason I do that, because it's like nobody wants to look at the misadventures of the Keystone Adventurers.
Right.
The guys who can't get it right.
The hero swings his sword and misses. And then he swings his sword and misses. Then he swings his sword again and misses.
He hits, but he doesn't do enough damage to kill the thing.
hits.
So he has to hit again. I really think that D&D could use... It could gain a lot from having a mixed success, which is something that a lot of other games have. So like in regards to having like a more narrative focused games, there tend to be less of a fail state in things. It is much more about you make a roll, whatever happens, the story is going to keep moving forward.
Yes.
It's just a matter of whether it happens favorably or unfavorably.
Yes. I don't like the part in genre games that it's basically like, okay, it tells you you're the central person of the story. Mm-hmm. And then in the next action says, we'll get along with it without you.
Yeah.
Die. Go ahead. Watch. We don't care.
Yeah, the campaign's just going to keep on moving without you. You don't need to be here.
Yeah.
Really. It kind of takes you out of immersion sometimes. Like simple things like the big burly fighter not, cranking open, a simple door
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's like, no, that really shouldn't. That dude has a 20 strength. Yeah, he rolled a 1, but come on. Really? Seriously. Character description. He's 6'9", 335 pounds. He has a strength of 20. That's a plywood door.
Like that door should be, it's not there anymore.
Yeah.
You know,
Maybe something else happens.
Yeah, because I mean, for me, if he rolled a 1, oh, you jogged it too good. Sorry, Princess Bride. And he's going to tumble through the door and probably land 10 feet into the room.
He busts the door on the other side of the room down, too.
You know, and it'll be kobolds looking like,
what?
Oh, we got to kill this or run.
Or if this was a Sonic game, he would break through the door, hit the giant spring that's on the far end of the next room, and then go back through the door, and the door would close and lock again. That's how
it would close and lock.
That's how it would work.
Hey, at least we know there's a spring in there.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. So the only narrative focused game that I personally have played was actually the game that my brother made, The Mountain Witch, and in that it is very narrative focused. The players are in charge of narrating, a lot of what happens. If they attack something, whether they succeed or fail, the players are narrating how they succeeded or how they failed. And then it's up to the players to create a lot of the drama in the story. The players are supposed to have like a lot of interpersonal issues that they have to work through as the game goes on. It's meant to stir up lots of inter-party conflict. Ding. So that type of game, it's got its strengths and weaknesses. And personally, that type of game is kind of hard for me to run and to play in because I started off playing games like Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
And so it's hard for me to get into the mindset of narrating everything, of being in control of the narration. It's also hard for me as the dungeon master or the game master to put that much control into the player's hands. So it is hard for me to play those types of games, not because anything's wrong with the game, just kind of because of the rut that my mind tends to get into when I'm playing or running a game.
Yeah, like I usually need mechanics to fall back on for the most part, but then but I do hate the pass or fail of D&D sometimes.
Right. I've never played any games that were a hybrid of the two, but the idea of it sounds really cool. I would love to play a game that was like Dungeons and Dragons, but the players did have some kind of control over the narrative.
Mm. And I mean, like, you can run it close to that. Like, it won't be a true hybrid, but you can definitely give the character a little bit more control on the narration and everything. But you'll have to be pretty vigilant on like when to have them scale it back so that you can regain control of the story and everything.
Sure.
Yeah, I've done that, and I feel the best way to do it is to give them narrative control with inherent breaks and limits. Like they're walking up to a city. What do the city gates look like?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Just small details.
Small things. And sometimes you give them larger things, just depending on what you need. As a DM, it's a very lazy way of DMing, but it's very effective.
Yeah.
Hey, that's not a bad idea. Like, even if it is just small details, that's a detail that they put there, and then the next time they go through that doorway, hey, that's that doorway I described.
Exactly.
So they're more invested in the world, even though you have overall control of everything. If they can put their mark on it, even if it's not a mark their character makes, but it's a mark that they make, they'll be more invested.
And then a good DM could probably take some of these details the players are using in their descriptions and then try and find a way to tie them together. Maybe one of the players describes the city gates as having a serpent motif over it. Mm-hmm. And then maybe another player describes, some sort of like a temple they go to being like a lizard-themed temple. And then the DM could maybe take that and then have it be that there's like a secret cult of serpents or reptiles or something that is in charge of the town or something like that. So if you wanted to try and make D&D or something like that into a hybrid type game, it really is kind of as simple as just asking your players more questions instead of narrating them yourself.
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion, that's why a lot of people who've played my games are like, it feels so organic. It's because I have no idea what the hell I'm doing before you guys sit down. It has to be organic.
Yeah.
I'm just as confused as you at the beginning of the game. But you can't tell players that. I mean, I've told you guys that. Obviously, I'll more than likely run for you guys.
We won't tell anybody. Wink, wink.
But I find my best games come from the fact that I am seat of my pants the entire time. I don't let my players know it at the time. If a person's been gaming with me for long enough, like for a couple of years, they kind of catch on because they're like, okay, nobody's this swift.
I've had suspicions at times, but it's never been a definite thing for me.
Yeah, it's like I make notes, and my notes make no dang on sense whatsoever. Like at the beginning of the game, say I have 5 players, I'll have something like, Jeff sees a dragon. Okay, I'm done with his character. Let's see. Gabe finds a friend.
Okay.
And I'll just have like one note blurbs over a paragraph written. And the paragraph is the entire like core of the adventure.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be everything that's like necessary besides like, but I already told you about earlier about city building, about how, I always have the core people of any town, city, village that I've created, because those people are necessary.
Yeah.
And they are the lifeblood of your city. The NPCs, all the minor NPCs, they're nothings. Mm-hmm. But the major people, you have to have them pretty concrete. Mm-hmm. And
do we want to get into that question?
Yeah. I mean, if that's okay with you, we'll segue into.
That's great for me.
This is a good lead into our next question.
Yeah. The next question was from Big Hairy Belly on Reddit. And the question was, what sort of exercises or methods do you use for city building?
Yes. So yeah, you were just talking about building a city.
Yeah, cities, one of the most important things you can do. Well, the two most important things you can do. Your major NPCs, always have them fully fleshed out.
Yes.
Their motivations, even down to some things like some of their daily habits and haunts. Because if, say, you give the constable 3 places in the day that he's likely to be, you have to flesh out those 3 places. It makes you do it.
Yeah, like give them a schedule, like a daily schedule, or a weekly schedule that they go through.
Yeah, and it makes you do a lot of things that you normally wouldn't. Because I mean, I've been building. I have been building. Thank you. Towns and villages and such. And then when you give people a daily schedule, you'll think of things like, how in the heck does she use the bathroom? There are no bathrooms between here and here. I mean, weird things, but things that are really important in the minutia.
Right.
Yeah.
And that adds the detail of there's an alleyway in that road where there's just a pile of...
Exactly. Or, there's a bathhouse that, specializes in people doing their business.
Sure.
But, something... No, secret bathhouses are very, very naughty places.
Listeners, do not go to a secret bathhouse.
Unless you're in my campaign.
That's where the adventure begins, Gabe.
All right, you all meet up in a secret bathhouse. Go.
Oh.
So you're saying important NPCs?
Important NPCs are the most important thing you can go with. Mm-hmm. And then detail exactly what you want your city to be. Detail one thing what you want it to be.
So like one theme.
Yep, one theme. Like, all right, like if you want it to be, this is the Thieves Guild city. And everybody knows, everybody who's read any type of fantasy in the last 7,000 years knows that it's always that one city that's just based. It's known for nothing else but it's Thieves Guild. And you're wondering, why do people come here? Like, I bake bread. Why not bake bread there? Why bake bread here? It's just gonna get stolen.
Yeah.
Yes, but my family. Yes, your family's been getting robbed blind for years. Congratulations. Yeah, but like if you want that to be your thief city, build everything around the Thieves Guild, because the city isn't important.
Mm-hmm.
The theme of the city is important.
Yeah.
That major theme, if this is your temple city, build everything around the temple. That doesn't mean physical buildings, but build everything that the city is going to be doing around that. Like, most times I make a thief city, I'm going to go with that as an example. They're usually really famous for something else that people can't get anywhere else.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason people deal with the fact that that's such huge thieves presence. Also, that's number 3. Make sure there is a reason people deal with whatever oddity you put in. If every other house in your city is haunted, give a reason.
Yeah, give a reason why people still put up with this haunted city.
Exactly. Like, oh, this is where the Tao monks train and they learn their exorcism techniques here. Good, because people know that, hey, all they got to do is, walk around the corner and be like, hey, y'all got another one.
Yeah.
And it can be dealt with. It becomes more of a nuisance. And that becomes a cool thing to hang on your city, because these are people, your characters are freaking out, oh my God, the inn you gave me is haunted. And the people are like, yes, so?
So we got
Go back to drinking their drink.
What's wrong with this guy?
Don't worry,
Yeah.
I got a guy. We'll just call him up on our
Fantasy cell phones.
Our mess.
Our stones of far speech.
Yeah. Our calling stone.
Yeah, going with both the last 2 points, the giving your city a theme and then making a reason why people put up with it. When I in the 5th edition campaign that I ran, which was also the setting for the book I was writing at the time, I knew that the town that I wanted to start in, the theme that I started with was I wanted it to be a town that was split in half by like an earthquake, which was kind of, I was kind of going off of in 4th edition, there was a city in the Dungeon Master's Guide called Fallcrest, which did have a big like fault line in the middle. But I thought, well, what if that happened and people were forced to like still find a way to deal with it? And so first I thought to myself, okay, well, there could be some sort of like relatively high-tech lock system, like basically like a water elevator that lets things go up and down the waterfall. But then I thought, well, why would people do that? Why wouldn't they just abandon this town, because that makes it useless as like a place of trade? Then I thought, well, what if it was like the biggest trade city in the country? Then they would kind of have to find a way to make it work. So then that got me thinking about, okay, so it's a big city. I think that Fallcrest, which I had sort of loosely based it on, was it was like it was relatively small. And so like, okay, well, it's a really big city. So they go and they do this. What are the repercussions of having to create this like big kind of high-tech machine basically to raise and lower the water level? And then I thought, okay, well, that would probably cost a lot of money to make. Where's that money going to come from? How is that money going to get paid back? And then I came up with the idea of Quest Day, which is like the holiday where everybody comes and the city taxes all the adventurers so that they can repay everything. And then that led to a plot line involving the people that built that never got paid back by the government, all the money they used to develop it. And then before I knew it, I had like this big city that has all of these things going on. And then I was like, well, what are the socioeconomic consequences of having one side of the city that is literally up above the other? It's like, well, that's where the rich people live, and then all the poor people live down at the bottom. And so that, the ideas just kept coming. And so it was all just, I started with an idea, a city that was kind of bisected by this big cliff face, and then it evolved into more and more.
Right, yeah, you make this, you get this idea, and it could be something really ridiculous, but then it asks questions, and then you answer those questions, and then those make more questions, and you just keep answering. So if you can just keep answering enough questions to then have a city.
Right.
Yeah. And honestly, to input something, ridiculous ideas are usually the best.
Yeah.
The idea that you look at first and like, this isn't gonna work, is usually the one at the end of a project you're like, this was the best idea I had.
Yeah.
And the idea you're like, this is the greatest idea ever. 15 minutes later you're like, oh, that is horrible. What was I thinking?
Yeah, there's plenty of ideas where I'm like, oh, that's really cool, and then I'll say it out loud and I'm like,
Isn't there some programming thing where, like, if you're programming something, if you can explain it to a rubber duck,
yeah.
then you've done a good job. If you can't, you need to go back to the drawing board and make it simpler.
Right, yeah. It's just it's like the rubber duck term. I don't know.
Something
But
like-
you're right. It's like encoding or something like that.
Yeah. And so, Chris, you were also talking about like NPCs and everything. I think that, it's very important to have the important NPCs and, like, the important details. You want to have those locked down.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to try to discourage people from getting too granular about everything.
Oh, yeah.
The more small details you come up with, the more you're going to get bogged down in the small details.
Yeah.
And then when they never come up, you will have just wasted time.
Yeah,
So
honestly, that was another point for my narrative approach to GMing. I'm not going to do the small details. That's
up to the players, yeah.
Yeah, that's the player's job. What do you see, bro?
yeah, so, like, you might want to have an idea of, roughly how big the city is, roughly what the power center is, like whether it's, what type of government and so on. But you don't need to know you don't need to know how many taverns there are in town. You don't need to know the names of every single tavern. Just whichever one the players are going to, come up with a name for that one.
There are
ahead
enough random name generators in this universe that you never have to think of the minor details.
Right.
And only thing listen, everything is just a sticky note away from permanence.
Yeah, exactly.
like seriously, there have been so many times my PCs have, like, I want to go to such and such a place. What's the name of it? The Sticky Wicket. Like, what?
Yeah.
Listen, it's the Sticky Wicket. It's the one you're closest to.
And I also think another reason why you shouldn't go too granular with all the details is that as a player, that's intimidating. If you're going to a town and the DM hands you a sheet of paper with like 5 points on it, and it's just like, it's got this type of government, here's the name of the biggest tavern, here's how big the city is, that's fine. That's easy enough for a player to digest.
Book.
Exactly. When they hand you like 6 pages, both sides, 4-point font, and you gotta like read all. No, your players are not going to be interested enough. Maybe eventually. But right off the bat, they are not going to be interested enough to care about all those details.
Honestly, the people who will be interested enough to reading that, they've probably been playing the game in that game world long enough. They could have written the goddamn thing themselves.
Exactly, yeah.
So who cares? Stop doing that.
Yeah.
Don't shoot yourself in the foot by giving too much detail. Give the important stuff details and kind of dance around the rest.
Yeah.
And trust me, PCs, players are the best at filling in the blanks. They will say some stuff before you can say you're like and the sound hasn't come out yet. That sound is forming in the bottom of your mind, and the player's like, I know what happened. And you stop right there, be quiet, and be like, oh, this can be interesting. Because trust me, that's going to lead to a 15-minute argument between disagreeing PCs.
Yep.
Which means it's time for you to take out notes and be like, I'm still in this.
That's 15 minutes of ideas the players are about to give you.
Exactly. I'm like, I'm still in this, I'm still in that. Oh, I didn't even know I was going to do that. Y'all are good. Now, how am I going to screw y'all over again? Oh, I didn't even know a monster was there.
Yep. The players are helping you discover your own world.
Man, and it's the best way, because that means that I could take the same adventure that I've written in the same town. If I decide, all right, I'm not going to put any of this into the quote unquote official setting. I can get a brand new take, a new test group, basically.
Yeah.
Completely different results. Completely different end of the adventure, probably.
Yeah.
And that's another thing I do have to work on. I know there's a segue. I have to work on like actually writing ends to my adventures.
Yeah.
I'm really good at writing the middle.
Yeah. I know.
The
what you mean.
beginning, I make the PCs right. In the end, I make the PCs right. The middle, I'm really good at. The beginning and the end, I'm like, that's never been my job. What do you mean people expect beginnings and endings to adventures? Because you would not believe how many times I had taken like pre-written modules and just cut the beginnings and endings off and let you guys work that part.
Yeah.
Because, well, you've said it before, so I'm safe to say it. Most adventures suck.
Yes.
Most adventures suck really, really bad. And the more you read them, the more suck you find. It's like, it's really weird. It's this sweet spot, like right in the middle, a little bit off center in most adventures. That's really good. And the rest is pretty much, oh, this is Drac.
Yeah.
Oh, this needs to graduate to become Drac. And it's just horrible. And usually those parts are at the beginning and the end, because the beginning usually is it's either cumbersome or it's too farcical to really give credence to if you're really giving it any thought.
Well, I guess it's like somebody gets that one really good idea and then trying to like build stuff around it, but they don't answer enough questions. They don't figure it out as much, because like you have this really good idea, and like the middle of that adventure is great, but how you get there and how you get from there isn't something people ask themselves properly.
I think the biggest problem is that when working for a big company, because a lot of the adventures I'm talking about are some of the larger printed ones.
Yeah.
And I think that they tried to make the beginning and the end so generic.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, because like a generic beginning is it's gonna open it to a wider audience, because then you could insert that module into anybody's campaign, because it's the beginning's just so bland that it'll fit with anybody.
Yeah, but that's also the problem. It becomes so bland it doesn't fit into any, because there's bland to a point where it can blend into anything, and it's bland to the point that it just makes everything else watered down. Kind of like the difference between good mayo and bad mayo.
Okay.
We know a lot about mayonnaise.
Yes,
on this show.
we do. Would you say the mayonnaise that comes out of the alchemy jug is good mayo, bad mayo, or somewhere in the middle?
It had to be good mayo. It convinced people to actually serve.
Yes.
Had to be the best mayo.
Yeah.
Mayo of
some
the
good
highest
mayo.
quality.
Yeah. And there's no such thing as bad mayo. It just becomes Miracle Whip.
Oh God, that stuff is horrible.
I think some people would argue that Miracle Whip is bad mayo.
Yeah, that's what happens to mayo when it goes bad. They just put it into Miracle Whip jars.
Oh yeah, today's episode is brought to you by Miracle Whip. Taste the miracles.
Taste the miracle.
I don't know what
It's a miracle if you can choke that crap down.
It's a miracle in your mouth. I don't know.
Oh, you'll need a miracle to
Yeah.
come back in this.
All right, our next question comes from Kryptonic. Kryptonic 901 to be specific. This was on Reddit. How long should you stick with a group before accepting that your play styles don't mesh?
Personally, I tend to stick with a group longer than I should. To be perfectly honest, I usually stick with a group that I don't like until I have something else going on that day, and then it's a good excuse. Exactly, yeah. And I'm kind of embarrassed with this, but I usually am like, oh hey, I can't make it this week, and then I rarely outright say, hey, I'm not going to play anymore. It's usually just kind of like, oh, I can't play this week. Next week's not looking good either.
Yeah.
Or the week after that, as I look at my watch.
Just make it a scheduling problem at that point. It's
I
like,
guess.
Well, something's coming up and I can't play anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually awesome. I mean, I wish I could be that nice.
Yeah.
I'm usually the guy who's like, all right, yeah. Let me take you to the side, Mr. GM. Let me talk to you. Your game sucks, and here's why. Okay. This is how we need to change it up. And, you know, I can stay and help you with that, or I can walk. I really don't care at this point, because this has been 2 weeks of suck for me. I can take 2 weeks.
Yeah.
2 weeks of just it. Because, number one, I'm grown and I don't get to play much. Mm-hmm. You ain't about to be wasting my game in time.
Sure, yeah.
That's just that's just going to make me feel worse about playing than not playing. Like,
Yeah.
Well, that could be tricky. Because if you don't play a lot, then you're like, well, I'm not going to get to play often, so I might as well put up with these guys and keep playing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're right. It's like, if I'm only going to be playing, once a month, it's not going to be with these guys.
Yeah,
Right.
I can't do it. I'd rather, but I've always been like that. I've been like that with everything. I'd rather not eat than eat bad food.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, no, I'm okay. I'll take some hunger for dinner.
And that's probably what this answer is going to depend on is the person. How desperate are you for a game?
Sure.
Yeah.
The more desperate you are, the longer you're probably going to stick with a group that doesn't mesh.
How agreeable a person you are.
Yeah.
Because agreeable people will put up with stuff and be like, okay, eventually they'll come to their senses, or I'll eventually be able to talk to them. No, I'm not agreeable. I don't have that beautiful part in most people's brain where it's just, hey, we shouldn't say that. Mine is like, we're gonna say it, and here's how to make it funnier. So,
I'm gonna say this. Here's how to make people accept it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, this is how we don't get shot a lot.
I'm the kind of person that if I can tell someone is at least trying to make an effort to involve me in something, I'll make at least the same effort. So like, if and I mean that also applies to like playing a game like D&D. If I can tell that the DM is trying, I'll stick around because he's trying. He's not just doing whatever he wants, and if you don't like it, screw you. If someone is trying, I will stick it out as long as I can. And, because I don't want them to get discouraged and not play the game. But if their attitude is like, well, I'm doing what I want, and if you don't like it, screw you. Similar to when I talked about my worst DM, his attitude was, I'm doing this right. If you don't like it, you clearly are doing it wrong because I've been playing the game longer than you. And so that attitude, I did, to be fair, I did stick with him for a while. But that was because I had nothing else going on. The moment I wanted to start my own game, I left.
Okay. Yeah, but me, I was coming more from the perspective of the people who they, quote unquote, know they're doing it right.
Yeah.
I hate those people. Well, hate's a strong word, but appropriate. So we're going to go with that. They drag all the fun out of everything by having to be empirically right. And especially when it comes down to it, it's a communal storytelling game.
Right.
Nobody's 100% right. We're all equally wrong.
Yes.
There you go.
I mean, the DM is going to be putting most of the work into it, and needs to have some control to it. Yeah.
I've DM'd a lot, and there's a lot of times I'm like, you guys have worked hard on my campaign. I could not have done it without y'all, because I slept most of this.
See, whenever someone brings up the idea of like, oh, DMs should get paid, I think to myself, like, I've been in groups where the DM was able to get by with doing very little work. Not. I don't mean that in a bad way.
No, trust me.
Like, a good DM doesn't have to do as much work, and good players will do a lot of the work.
Oh, my God, yes. Because, like, Melissa?
We've mentioned her on the podcast before.
Was great for filling out odds and ends of my various little worlds. Because she'd make a character, and she'd hand you, like, a small novella for like her character, and I'm like, you want me to read all of this? Okay. And it'd be gold in there, like, oh really? Oh, really? And the funny thing is the way she works as an artist is that I'd read it and I'd retain it. And a couple of months later, she would not know what the hell she wrote except like the broad strokes, which is even better for me because I'm like,
Right.
oh, I get to pervert it, So, yeah, you are completely right. Good players are worth their weight in any of the rare earths you want to name.
They're worth their weight in astral diamonds.
Yes.
Worth their weight in palladium.
Sure. They're worth their weight in palladium games,
Ooh.
which is a lot of palladium games.
Yeah.
Well, the way I deal with it is I only play games with like 3 people.
Yeah.
So, I know everybody I play with, I know them well enough to know their play style and know that it's not going to be bad.
Yeah.
Well, you're one of the lucky ones. No, seriously, you are severely lucky in that aspect.
Well, I mean, like I always want to play more games, but like then I would have to venture outside of my group.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's scary out there.
It's horrible out there. As a person who's been out there a lot, and honestly, the worst thing, never run a con game.
We actually did kind of just talk about con games with the Hardy Dice friends.
Yeah, I've run a couple of con games.
And convention games.
Yeah,
not
convention.
not confidence games.
Yeah, I had to think for a second. Like, oh, con. Right.
And it's like, the sad thing is thankfully are an adult by the time you can run a con game, so you can legally get drunk.
Okay. I thought maybe you were implying that you would be some sort of mature, but I was going to say, hold on a second.
No.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Gamers and maturity. Those two things don't really go together very well. We try at it, we act at it, we role play it very well. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm old and I still find fart jokes funny. So
yeah, I mean,
yeah, maturity is not really there. I'm like, I can pay bills and do shit like that, but when it comes to composing myself like an adult, are you crazy?
All right, so in conclusion, it's how long you should wait. It really is going to depend on how tolerant you are, how well you are able to be polite to people, I suppose, and also how desperate you are for a game.
Right.
But
Yeah.
A couple weeks, I think, is kind of
Sure.
the average.
Yeah.
among
at
us.
least give it an adventure or
weeks.
two.
Yeah.
Yeah, because sometimes DMs can be going through something,
Yeah, because
and yeah.
with games experiences, like you didn't really have too many options.
No, I really didn't.
And so, like, if you were going to be playing at all, it was either play by post online or just put up with what you had.
Yeah.
Play-by-post DMs are just as bad.
Sure.
Yeah.
Me and Gabe were in a play-by-post a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And I think both of us decided to leave at the same time because it was
so slow.
it was so boring.
Yeah.
It didn't go anywhere. Like, and he was really specific about how much, about making sure we spent all of our gold on all of our items that we were going to have. And before first session, they were all taken away.
Yeah.
And I was like, while I was, developing my character and you insisted that I spent this amount of money on my crap, I thought of tactics and everything else that
Went along with the items that you had.
yeah, and then you take them all away, and I'm like, well, that was underwhelming. And it got worse from there. It didn't get any better.
Yeah.
We were trapped in these mines, and then we had to fight Drow without equipment. That was not easy.
Yeah.
And it was just, it just got worse and worse and devolved into, what the hell am I doing? And that is... I mean, I like being confused when the adventure is supposed to confuse me, but I don't like being confused as a player, not knowing exactly what in the hell is really going on. Like, all right, what are we? I didn't even really know what subgenre we were in at that point. Like okay, is this an escape from prison? Is this survival? What the hell is he trying to have us do? I don't know, because it's changing every 5 minutes.
Yeah. That there were a bunch of things wrong with that game, and it just was not a great experience. And that's pretty much my only play by post experience. So for all I know, that's what they all are like.
Oh no, all of them aren't like that, but that was a bad one. That was a bad one.
All right. Well, I think that'll do it for questions. So now I would like us to take a moment. Let's clear our thoughts. Let's take a deep breath. And let us remember those who have come before us, who have given their lives so that we may have a better world to live in, or just because it just happens.
More entertaining world, at least.
There you go. Yeah. And we will toss another log onto the funeral pyre. All right. So for today's episode, Chris, you brought in a story of one of your own character deaths for the funeral pyre.
This character is Argent Silver. He was a human male rogue. Rogue fighter. I had designed him to be like this secret agent, black ops BA that was just awesome.
Yeah.
At getting into places, and either performing assassinations or high level infiltrations. And he only made it in 3 adventures.
And this was 3rd edition, correct?
Yes. This was 3.5. He only lived 3 adventures long. The end of the 2nd adventure, seeing him killing a cook at an inn that he had mistakenly thought had poisoned him.
Okay.
He eventually found the real killer, and he offered 100 gold pieces to the innkeeper's family, not the innkeeper's family, the cook's family. And they didn't want to take it. They were all upset. Like, it's not going to bring them back. I was like, no.
It's 100 gold.
I was like, no, it's not going to bring them back.
It's like 5 years' wages for these people.
Yeah, I'm like, no, it's not going to bring them back. Yeah, you need 2,400 more gold for that. And if you save now, maybe you can do that. I don't know. But take your filthy 100 gold. You'll never see this kind of money again. But and that was the type of person he was.
Yeah.
He wasn't all bad, just mostly. So in this next adventure arc, there was some kind of catastrophe happening in one of the local temples, and they were being attacked by hordes of these minor demons. Mm-hmm. So we were asked to help them. I don't know why Argent wanted to help, honestly. I've forgotten. It's been years.
Yeah.
But there's a good chance there was either treasure or the name of the person who's ultimately responsible for getting him drummed out of the military.
Okay.
That was probably because that's what he was searching for.
Sure.
So during this whole fiasco, we're fighting demons and running from demons and fighting, and there are paladins of the order of another player that are falling in combat. So what does this fine, upstanding, stalwart doer of good deeds do? He loots the bodies of his fallen companions.
Your paladin party member starts looting these bodies.
Yeah, he's looting other paladins like, ooh, this is good. This is good too. And my character, black-hearted rogue that he is, actually was like, hey, this is wrong. We can't be doing this. At least let the bodies cool off, man.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, this guy just a second ago was saying, help me, and you're like, not enough for you. And just taking, no. Listen. They need their gear until you hold them underwater for a couple of seconds. Don't worry about it. I'm a paladin. I do this professionally. So it's like, dude, seriously, you're just going to I mean, and he's letting people expire, because I'm like, okay, yeah, I understand that they're in a negative hit points and everything, but you had this thing called lay on hands,
right,
don't you?
Yeah.
like, but I need hands for that. Also,
as he's shoving things into his bag.
exactly. Like, I also need hands to shove my pack full. So, you know, the confrontation gets kind of heated, and instead of answering me, he just shoves a whole paladin body into his sack. Unfortunately, that paladin had a bag of holding
That he just put into a
bag
bag
of holding while we're basically nose to nose arguing. So it did not work out so well for Argent, and he was swept into the astral plane, and the group pooled money and resources to resurrect the paladin.
Oh.
Yeah.
Dang.
Wow.
Well,
that sucks.
Yeah, it does. But I like that death actually, because even though the character died, it showed something about him that I didn't know previously. That he wasn't a complete bastard.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay.
He had limits.
Yeah, they were like, okay, there's some things I'm just not willing to do. And these people died for their beliefs. I don't believe in their beliefs. But let's not, like, desecrate the bodies. Leave that for our enemies.
Okay, so let us raise a glass in memory of Argent, the rogue who stood up for what he thought was right and got sucked away into the astral plane only to be forgotten by his party members.
Yeah.
Clink. All right, well, I think that'll do it for today. To submit questions for us to discuss, items for the Dragon's Hoard, or stories for the funeral pyre, please email us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. For show notes, running lists of questions asked, and important links, go to interpartyconflict.com. Find us on Facebook, facebook.com/interpartyconflict, or our subreddit at reddit.com/r/interpartyconflict, where I post weekly discussion questions for you. We're also on Twitter at InPartyConflict. We're on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, and YouTube. Anywhere you download podcasts, please rate, review, subscribe, or just tell a friend. If you feel like donating, we have a PayPal donate button on our website. Anything you can give us would go towards making the show better. Jeff, do you want to tell us about FriendQuest?
FriendQuest is our YouTube channel where we play games like Tower of Doom and what was the other one? Shadow over Mystara. Yep.
Cool. All right. Also, head over to audibletrial.com/conflict and get yourself a free audiobook. There's over 180,000 titles to choose from. I guarantee you'll find something you like. And if you do, it gets us free money, basically.
Yeah.
So go ahead and do it. Also, everybody go to bit.ly/interpartyconflict. Take our short survey. If you do, it just takes a couple minutes. Questions about, what you like about the podcast, what you don't like, and so on. If you do, you get 2 free printable board games courtesy of Mary and Tom at hollandspiel.com. And our music is made by Boxcat Games from Nameless the Hacker's RPG. So, Chris, till next time.
Don't whiz on the electric fence.
There you go.
There you go.